Asked me to offer a little guidance on what I was talking about in class today. I know I threw a lot at you, but he has asked me to explain what I meant when I said rough in the figures and the shapes. And I have decided to make this video, and he has graciously agreed that I can share this with the class. As you can see, I'm going to close Photoshop. I have his Illustrator file open. I don't want anybody to get upset if it feels like I'm going faster than you feel comfortable going. Need you to remember I'm super old and I've been at this for a minute. Okay, so here I am in Illustrator, and here is the file. And I think you can see that we have the base file locked down. I've gone in and double clicked on this base file, and I dimmed my images to 50%. Now in class I suggested 70, 50, whatever works best for you. The reason is that if it's at 100%, the scan layer can get a little overwhelming. So I'm in here. I am going to make a new layer. I can do it that by clicking on create new layer, or I can come over here and say new layer. I'm going to call this new layer bodies, bodies, bodies. All right? And I am going to start to draw with the pen tool. Now, if I draw with a filled shape, it's going to be impossible to see the sketch underneath. And if I draw with a black line, it's going to be challenging to see the sketch underneath. So I'm going to go over here and get a no fill. I'm going to come into my stroke and double click. I'll pick a nice bright color, and I'll go to the stroke menu. I think you remember this. I'm going to get a nice chunky stroke that I can work with. Okay, so here I go. So I'm going to start by examining this and saying, what shapes do I need to start with? Start with the body. So I'm going to trace out the arm and the hand, the leg, the torso, the arm, and the head. So this leg starts here. Oops. So I'm going to start drawing this leg, and I'm not going to do any of the line work. And I may as well zoom in so that I can see what I'm doing. Remember the like the Volkswagen and all that stuff? I'm pulling the pen tool in the direction that I go. And this line of the leg isn't that important, because when I go to draw the toga, I'm going to create that line. So as I do this leg, I'm going to come up here, I'm going to finish the leg, and I'm not going to be too neat about it. Why should I? I can see by the sketch that the toga is going to cover this area of the drawing. Right? So there is a leg. Next I'll do the arm. Now, Preston has this marvelous line work going on, but I'm going to skip that for now. That's all comes later. For now, I'm tracing out this shape. And if you want to work fast, that's fine. Now, let me just zoom in. Let's look at this. First of all, you can see what a terrible job I did on the wrist, so let me fix that. So, do you see how this shape, this is the closed shape. This is a different shape. So let me start here. And I'm just moving. I like to move clockwise in the direction of my drawing. You can do this any way you want. But what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to stop and do the line art. I'm not going to create this articulation of this muscle. Nope, not doing it. I am just going to draw. Now watch, I'm going to put my finger on the command, the command key. You'll notice that I change back to the tool. And if I take my hand off the command key, there's the pen tool. So I'm going to keep going. Keep going. Now, I've reached the end of the arm. This portion of the body, again, is going to be covered by this toga. So I don't have to be precious about this. I can just draw some straight lines. All right, let me back up. So far, if I turn off the scan for a second, if I click on the little eyeball, I've got an arm and a leg. Let me keep going. I'm going to hide this layer that's pressed inside. So now I'm going to do the torso. Here I go. Going in to do the torso. Now, I don't have to draw any of this because it's going to be covered by the beard, but I'll just rough it in because I do have to have a closed shape. Here's where the line of the torso gets picked up again. There's no toga, there's no beard. So that's what I'm going to do. And again, this isn't a closed shape. His pectoral muscle isn't a closed shape. Here's the closed path. So I'm going to follow that closed path all the way around. I'm not going to articulate the ribs. I'm not going to deal with the abdomen yet. I'm just doing the lines of the torso. And again, when I reach this point, the toga is going to cover this, so I don't have to be precious about it. I can just draw a straight line. Because this is all going to get covered up by the toga. Alright, I'm doing alright. Let's keep moving. I am going to do now this arm. Now, this arm, this shape of this arm, is covered by the torso. So I can start way out here. I'm going to draw this closed shape. Now, we have a finger here. Think of the thumb. We have 4 fingers here. This is a closed shape. This is a closed shape. So I can do this. Because this part of the arm is going to be covered by the thunderbolt. So I can just come right back on down here. And I'm going to draw this shape because where the thunderbolt crosses over, I need this little bit of arm. I'm going to draw this closed shape. I'm going to draw this closed shape. I'm going to draw this closed shape. And I'm going to end here. And here's the important bit. This, I'm going to do object, arrange, send to back. Because this goes behind this. Alright, so I've got 2 arms, a torso, and that's pretty much it for the body. So we'll pretend that I did all 3 bodies. Now let me just do his head. Now for the head, I am working too hard for the head because the shape of this space in his face is going to be created by the beard and the hair. So the head, really all I need is that. I'm going to fill that with a color. Alright? And if I back up, so I still have to do these fingers. And I'll do them all as one piece. And again, I'm going to start back here. And again, I'm just pulling in the direction that I'm going. This is probably going to need a little careful touch-up work later. But here, this part of the hand, these fingers are covered by the arm, so I don't have to fuss about those. I can just draw a straight line. All I have to do is worry about closing off the path. And then up here, I'm going to draw this thumb. This is a closed path as it curves around the sword. Careful when you click on things that are close to other paths because you can end up editing the other paths. Now, is it perfect? Far from it. I'm going at the speed of light here. But there's one closed path. Now, this closed path is in my way. This is what I was talking about the other day. If the hands were on their own layer, I could hide the layer. This closed path is a little bit in my way, and I want to draw the fingers. So I'll do what I showed you the other day, which is Command 3, and I'll hide that for a second as I draw this. I want to make sure I get this correct. And again, I'm just articulating this closed path. I'll draw the fingers out later. I'm not going to worry about them. For now, I'm just doing the shape that all of his closed fist kind of creates. And I'm not going to get too precious about these fingers here because this finger is going to cover it. And I'm going to send that to the back. And then I'll show all. So I got my thumb back. All right? So now that I've drawn all of these pieces, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'll call it hair and beard, even though a beard is kind of hair. All right? So now I'm going to focus on the hair and the beard. Well, how can I do this? Well, a couple different ways. First of all, I will point out that his face is more or less symmetrical. So in theory, I only have to draw these locks of hair. So let's start. I'm going to just kind of zap in some hair. And this is where I was talking about how working at 6x6 in this particular sketch, there is an incredible amount of detail in this sketch. So it might be simpler to work 12x12. All right, so I'm going to draw this line. I'm going to pull down and create this kind of widow's peak. Now, the body's kind of getting in my way, so I'm going to turn that off. And I want to make sure I get this kind of cool widow's peak that's going on. So for a second, I'm going to turn the scan off and just concentrate on this shape. All right? So now that I have this piece of hair, there's a couple things that I can do. I could go in and get the reflect tool, and I can set my reflect tool and finger on the option key to get myself a copy, and I can pull it over, and then I can come in and just edit this path. I don't have to start from scratch, right? I can edit the existing path. And if I wanted to, when the time comes that we talk about color and texture, we can talk about how we're going to add color and texture to this hair. We could use the draw and side tool, right? And I could create, with a brush, I could create texture. We could do all kinds of things. But for now, just really, really fast, I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste, I'm going to drag this over. I'm working really fast for the purposes of the demonstration. I'm going to go get my rotate tool. I'll throw this in here. And I'll work on this a little bit. Right? And make sure these paths are all working. And I can if you don't want to if you don't want to use the existing stuff, you can redraw stuff. You can take the pen tool and just keep drawing these locks of hair. I'm going to work my way around. And I'm going to do this for the entire file. Or for the at least at the start, I probably would do it for the three figures in the foreground. So for example, I would draw half the skull, and then I'd flip it over. I draw his arms, I draw his torso. Before I started on all this marvelous work, I absolutely would draw this toga. So, do the toga. And at this point, since I'm drawing something different, I'm probably going to change colors. All right, I'm going to draw the part of the toga, and then I'll show you how we proceed. So, if I'm going to draw the toga, and I've got the hair and I've got the bodies, I'm going to lock these down just for a second, so I can kind of reach past them. Now I'll draw the toga, and I need to be on the unlocked layer when I do this. Here's my toga, and again, I am going way too fast. Let me just rough this in. Here is the closed shape of this portion of the toga. Right? So I'm going to put this in. I'm going to get this piece that comes around his body. You have to be careful when you're drawing on top of other paths. That's why I lock things down. Right. Now I'm going to keep this separate for a couple of reasons. One, it might be interesting to have the bottom of the toga and the top of the toga be different shades of color. Right? So I finished up. This is now a closed path. This is the goal, to rough in all the closed paths. Cact this up. So I will delete this anchor point tool. There we go. Okay. That's enough to be going on with. Now, when we start to talk about color, we will all be doing this. We will create a color palette. For right now, I'm just going to put these circles, and we'll say that the body will be, I don't know, what color should I make his body? I'll make it a mid-tone, and then I'll get a darker tone. You're not going to do this yet, okay? You're not anywhere near close to this. We are just roughing in shapes. But I just want to show you what happens when you once all the shapes are roughed in. Okay. So I've got 3 colors. I'm going to unlock this layer. So I can come into the torso. I'll pick up my eyedropper tool, which is right here. And I'll say, you're a mid-tone. And I don't want you to have a stroke. And you're a mid-tone. And I don't want you to have a stroke. You're a mid-tone. I don't want you to have a stroke. There are faster ways of doing this. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. Because the fingers are behind, I'm going to make them darker. Because darker things tend to go behind. And I will get rid of that. Now this has to go behind. So I will object, arrange, send to back. And there are the fingers. And then I can do the same thing here. I can draw this thunderbolt, right? It's like putting together all the pieces of a puzzle. Now I'm busking it here. I can't see the sketch, but I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing here. Alright, I'm making a mess, but you get the idea. Now this hand and this hand, these pieces of hand have to come up over the thunderbolt. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'll call it fingers. And remember, we learned how to move things. We move that up. And then I'll fill that with the lighter purple, not new thunderbolt. I want you to be yellow with no stroke. So, I think you can see, and then I'm going to take away the stroke on these 2 pieces. No stroke. So I think you can sort of see now what's going on. And once this has been roughed in, let's make this so once I have this stuff all kind of roughed in, then I can go back. I'm going to turn all of these off. And I will call this layer manly chest. I'm going to go into this manly chest. Now I'm going to work in line work. I'm not going to close my paths anymore. I'm going to get rid of the fill, give myself a nice fat stroke, nice dark color, and I will articulate his pectoral muscle, right? I'm going to draw this pectoral muscle. Now, there's a tool that I haven't shown you yet that I'm planning on showing you called the width tool. It is right here. We will learn this together, but if you wanted this stroke to have a little bit more charisma, this is what I would do. I would employ the width tool to give it a little bit of an uneven tone. Or, here's another tool we haven't looked at yet. I'm going to draw this. I'm going to go into my stroke tool and say show options. Don't worry about any of this. I just want to show you what the future holds. Okay, see the profile? I'm going to change the profile to thick thin. And if I turn off the scan, you can see now I have the detail. If I have the detail and I move it up over, whoops, if I move it up over bodies, 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 and I turn bodies, bodies, bodies on, and I am not a jerk, and I make this a darker color, see that? That's how you're going to work. You start with the big picture stuff. You start with closed shapes, and you build from the bottom up. And then once you've got all of those closed shapes articulated, you can start building all of the detail that comes in. I can go into the toga and get myself get a black line. I'll make it nice and thick. I'll change the profile to thick thin, and I'll put in all of these marvelous details. And I won't put them on the same layer as manly chest. I'll put them on their own layer called toga details. Move it up to toga details, and I'll move toga details up over the toga. Make it nice and thick. Change the profile to something with a little bit more pizzazz. And I'm off and running. And I can start putting together all of these details. But none of these little details are going to make any sense at all if I don't have an arm to put them in, if I don't have a chest to put them in, if I don't have a body to lay them on. This is what I mean by roughing in the details, and then we'll do the eyelashes later. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, I want you to get back in touch with me on Slack and we'll talk it through.